And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to Hack City. Joe DeLeone and Sean Anderson, 2 former college football players from the University of Rhode Island. We're here to preview FCS Football Week 11. 2 big games to get to: South Dakota State at North Dakota, UC Davis at Montana, all that and more. Before we get there, Sean, where can they bet on these games if our listeners wanted to?
Stop yelling at me.
Do the read.
Bet Online is where they're going to want to bet. They got all the best lines. It's the world's most trusted betting platform. You hear me talk about them every week. You hear that I'm winning bets every single week, and you refuse to go.
That second
go to Bet Online. I'm going to hit the tagline. The game starts here. The bets hit here. It's Bet Online. That's where we go 3-0 in college betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. They got all the sports. You're sitting there looking, oh, what's going on? It's a Tuesday. I'm just sitting here with my, jacking. No, turn on some sports, watch some football, watch some basketball. College basketball is back. NHL, UFC, MMA.
Are you the first person ever to say jacking it? Two things that you did that are not kosher. You accused the listener of something and also in the middle of an ad read.
I know what they're doing. They're sitting there drinking whiskey, looking at Twitter when they could be watching and gambling on sports.
I
like
thought
real
I was
men.
losing it.
Head to Bet Online today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here.
All right, Sean, South Dakota State traveling to play at North Dakota. This is a weird game to talk about because one thing I didn't realize, and shout out to Jackrabbit Illustrated, I pulled this stat from an article that they wrote on their site for background on North Dakota. I wish more FCS teams, at least the premier teams, had sites like this where they do the due diligence to pull these stats, that if I'm looking for articles, instead, all I've got are local newspapers who all write the same article with the same headline of, do the Jackrabbits play today? That's what that's what all these headlines are, and there's nothing else.
Wait.
No one's doing any quotes from coaches.
What was the site? Was this Jackrabbit Illustrated?
Yes, Jackrabbit Illustrated.
Okay, what, did they make us Mongolian this week also?
No.
Their JIAI.
Were you listening to what I was
division?
saying?
I was.
Okay.
Just want to slip it in.
No, they didn't. Was it Mongolian?
No,
I was the Asian one. You were
I was also Asian. We were both.
Not the first time. Okay, we're getting really distracted here. South Dakota State fans, this is what you do to us. Talking about this game, though, thank you to Jackrabbit Illustrated for pulling this stat and pointing this out. They are 5-0 at home, North Dakota. They are 0-4 on the road. Their performance at home and on the road is starkly different. They're like 2 completely different teams. It's important context, but I don't think it's context enough to indicate that there will be an upset in this. This North Dakota team, not the same as the one that started the year that beat Montana. They have been very, very shaky. They've had some good wins at home, but they have been very, very shaky. And albeit South Dakota State is coming a few weeks removed from the North Dakota State loss, they're hitting their stride. Their run game is playing as good as we've seen it. And North Dakota right now is not playing good run defense, giving up 163 yards per game.
The farther that we're removed from the marker game, the more I'm impressed with South Dakota State.
Yeah.
Because the mental toughness, the physical strength, the dominance on the field, the not missing a beat, even though you took a loss to a bitter rival, is impressive. These are our college football players, right? It's a college program. There's so many variables. There's so many possible issues. There's so many emotions. But if you have a team that knows how to win and is locked in and has a culture of winning, that's what you do. You bounce back and you string off wins and you look and you appear, even if you are rattled, you appear as if you aren't. And that gives out confidence. It's intimidation to other programs. If I'm North Dakota, I'm sitting here, these guys lost to North Dakota State. How is that possible? How is this offense? How did this offense lose? How did this defense lose? It would be unfathomable. And then South Dakota State looking at this team, you can't take North Dakota lightly. because we've seen that they can pull off the miracle upset, the crazy upset. We know that they have that club in their bag, but the inconsistency is there. It's Ramfo has not been good enough in October. He's been solid. He's a good quarterback. They have good running backs, but they need a miracle upset in this one. It's South Dakota State just because of how impressed I have been with this program so far this year. I mean, since their first national championship, when we started covering this show, we've been not predicting a fall off, but just wondering how long can they keep this pace up?
Yeah.
They're still pacing. They're still the pace car. I know they lost to North Dakota State this year, but if we're being realistic, they are the pace car for the FCS.
The run game is definitely going to take over. And I think one thing that's been discussed that we've mentioned so far this season, it feels like South Dakota State doesn't have that same gear in the passing attack. And they lost the Yankee twins, which were super important for their passing production. And Gronowski hasn't been as steady as we were used to seeing last year when he won the Walter Payton Award. He's still been good, but he wasn't in that upper category like we saw from him last season. I do wonder, like, maybe that factors in. Maybe North Dakota can slow this game down. They can play just like a really grind you out type of a game, control time of possession. That's essentially what happened in the marker game, where both those teams were just grinding it out. Neither could really produce through the air. And it was who had the big play late or finished off the late drive to take the lead. That was why North Dakota State won. So if this game is won and lost on the ground, if South Dakota State can't get into that rhythm that they need in the passing game that they haven't really consistently had this year, that's something to pay attention to. But North Dakota, they could do it because they've got a fantastic running back duo with Isaiah Smith and Gavin Zybarth, who we've mentioned a number of times in the show. I just don't have a lot of faith that with the way that they've been playing, suddenly North Dakota pulls out this upset.
I don't see it. They've lost 3 of their last 4, albeit 1 to North Dakota State. Losing to Youngstown State was tragic. Losing to Indiana State was double tragic. And jokingly, I know that we joked on it on the recap show this past week, but it gets less and less ironic, funny, and more like, eesh, when I look at Murray State putting up 35 on North Dakota. I don't care that you scored 72. When I look at the resume that they put together this year, sure, it started hot. The Montana win still looks great. It's still a good win, but the defense is not good enough. It just is not a truly competitive defense to compete with the South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Montana State, South Dakota echelon of teams. Are they still a good team? Yes. I mean, if I'm being harsh, it's because I'm comparing to excellence. If I'm taking it across the whole FCS landscape, yeah, they're still probably a top 30 team. They're still probably a top 30 program over the last 3 years. But with the expectations that they had this year as a top 10 team at moments, ranked by not just me, but others in the committee, this fall off is jarring. It's not great. And you would hope that a team with the talent that they do catch some fire and start making things interesting, but they just simply haven't yet. So it's just kind of a meh season for them to date.
Yeah, I have one final thought on this. North Dakota loses. They are 1,000% removed from the playoff picture. I do not see a world with 5 losses. Plus, not to mention, I want to just pull up their schedule really quickly before we move on to the next game.
I mean, it's
their
still, yeah.
Final games, you lose this game, you've got 2 more chances against South Dakota.
Loss.
And like, you would, if you beat South Dakota, you actually might have enough of and Illinois State, you might have enough of like a finalized, bolstered resume. There could be an argument, but oh man,
they would either have to win this game and one of those other 2, or lose and win both of those. I don't think either happened, by the way.
The craziest part, well, first of all, they've boxed themselves behind Indiana State with the loss that they have. But if they theoretically beat Illinois State, they would have the head-to-head over Illinois State, and they would also be above Illinois State, or they'd have the same record as Illinois State. South Dakota, they probably would need to hope that they could box them out, but I would assume South Dakota would be a playoff team. It's plausible. It's plausible for North Dakota to still get into this playoff picture, but it would require them finishing out on this. This is the problem with North Dakota in this season. They lost all the games that they weren't supposed to. They had a very tough final stretch. and they've completely effed themselves. They have given themselves no room for error.
I think we would have been very forgiving with this down home stretch if they were coming in 7-8 wins, looking at it like, you know what? Those are playoff teams. Maybe they put up a good fight, made it competitive. And now we're saying, okay, well, they have these wins. They played close in these losses. They put up a respectable resume, but you lose the ones you're supposed to win. You're just too deep in the hole to dig yourself out, barring a miracle.
UC Davis is traveling to play at Montana. This is not the game that we're going to. We're going to the unimportant one next week against Portland State. Be on the lookout. I still have to tweet about that. I was thinking to myself yesterday, I should put that tweet out to rally the Montana listeners. And then I was like, there's more important things happening on election day. I'm sure nobody's going to be paying attention. But Montana needing this victory in order to strengthen their resume. They're in a very strong position. UC Davis has played a really great so far this year that they will lock themselves into a seed. We'll talk about those playoff implications after we kind of break this game down. One, I give the edge to Montana at home. I understand their past performances this year, but Montana consistently is one of those home environments that is tough to win at. UC Davis on the flip side of this, though, they have been awesome on offense. Quietly has maybe the best offense, if not one of the best offenses in FCS football. Miles Hastings could quite possibly be a Walter Payton finalist and should be a Walter Payton finalist, maybe even could be the winner with the 2,800 passing yards and 23 touchdowns that he has this year. And on top of that, Land Larison has been dominant for them on the ground. This UC Davis offense is fantastic. And more importantly, their defense is underrated as well. I've been a very big Rex Connors fan. They've got all the pieces to continue this stretch of dominance that they've had.
Their defense is sneaky good against the run also, only giving up 122 yards per game on the ground, which is a good note when you're playing a team that is so strong on the ground like Montana. The one challenge in this game is that the last 2 weeks, Montana has reverted back to that 2-quarterback system with Fife and Ayat, both getting touches in the backfield, both maybe just working off of vibes, working off of momentum. They smoke Northern Colorado. They smoke Cal Poly. Fine. Maybe we're just trying to figure some stuff out before we play UC Davis. It'll be interesting to see what their quarterback dynamic is in this game. Legit offense that you're going to have to win a shootout against, because that's UC Davis's game. We're going to put up a ton of points. Come get some. We bet you can't keep up with us. And I think it's going to take a quarter for Montana to figure out what guy they want to roll with for the next 3. Because I do believe if you leave it up until half and you don't figure it out until after halftime, you're going to be too deep in a deficit of points to crawl back out of. So you're going to have to make a decision early on in this game and stick with it between Fife and Ayat if you think it's going to be mobile running quarterback that can throw in Ayat, or I'm going to try to dot you up through the air with Fife and lose some of that mobility on the ground. It's going to be, I'm very, very intrigued to see what they roll with in this one.
You bring up a really good talking point with Montana because they have played like their true defense, the true defensive identity that we know them for, which is blanking teams. And I know that you did that against Cal Poly and Northern Colorado, which aren't super competitive opponents. But I also look at the Northern Arizona game where you held them to 20. Their defense has gotten better over a week by week slate here. Does that defense show up against UC Davis? This is not arguably, this is the hardest offensive matchup that you're going to be facing. This is the best matchup for Hastings and for Larison that you have seen all year. You got tested and you lost to Weber State at home, and they put up 55 points on you, but they do not hold a candle to the production that UC Davis has had this season.
Yeah, I mean, Montana, though, number 3 scoring offense, which is great. They do have the ability to go in a shootout. So, and I still think it does come down to the vibes at the quarterback position, who they're going to roll with. They do have a complete team. Do they give off that same level of confidence because they haven't gone on a true stretch of dominance against great teams and racking up massive ranked wins? No, but they're doing the things that you should be doing. They're 40 for 44 in the red zone, which is great. I'll take that all day, every day. Did you see Stephen F. Austin is perfect in the red zone?
I saw you tweeted that.
I couldn't believe that when I saw it. 33 for 33 is incredible. But Montana can throw the rock. They can run the rock. Gilman and Osmo are legit dynamic threats, both of them. If you think you can't catch the Lightning and Gilman, you're not going to be ready for the Thunder with Osmo. They're averaging 223 on the ground throughout the year. This is going to be, this has potential game of the year category between the two teams when you really start looking at it, because you have stars everywhere. You have star quarterback for UC Davis. You have megastar, FCS megastar running back in Land Larison through the ground and in the receiving game. And Montana, two great running backs, great wide receiver in Junior Bergen, and two quarterbacks that could really make a name for themselves in this matchup. It is must-see TV FCS matchup this week between the two teams.
Now, if Montana wins this game, we know that bolsters their case to get a seed. I think that if they win, there's a lot of variables that come into this. Portland State's a gimme win, and then they get Montana State at the end of the year. That game is going to be close. I think Montana State is going to win it because Montana State is at home, and it tends to kind of go back and forth when these teams are relatively evenly matched between who's the home team. If Montana has 3 losses and they have this win over UC Davis, I would argue they are positioning themselves to be the last remaining seeded team. I think that if they lose with 4 losses, they're still in the playoff picture. Like, I'm not going to play that game of like they knocked themselves out with 4 losses. Their resume is reputable enough where if they lose to UC Davis and they lose to Montana State, and as long as those 2 losses are close, they'd still be in the playoff picture. I do not see them getting boxed out.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like one of these years where we're sitting here griping about letting in like the 5th best Big Sky team, record-wise or resume-wise, compared to a 4th CAA team or a team from the Southland or the OVC. Like this Montana team, we kind of know is legit, and they lost a goofy one to North Dakota. That's weird. They lost a goofy.
It really sucks. The quality of that loss is just diminished on a week by week basis.
Right, because throughout the year, you're sitting here like, oh man, North Dakota, if they stay in the top 10, that's a really good fight. They lost a goofier one to Weber, it might haunt them, but I'm siding with you. Even if they do lose to UC Davis and Montana State, I'd be hard pressed to be convinced that there's a better team at that 24th spot than Montana would be in the playoffs. Just seeing the body of work that they put in, and plus, seeing the team that they roster also.
Right. Plus, we've already seen this happen before, and this isn't a dig or anything, but like Montana's gotten in with mediocre records, and finishing with 4 losses isn't necessarily 8-4 isn't a mediocre record, but like there have been years where people have complained and griped. Was it 2 years ago that they got in when they were like 7-5 and everybody was all pissy that they got in with that?
We've complained and griped when they got in over Rhode Island, who was bounced off the bubble at times.
That's right.
So I just, if we're being honest about it,
I forgot about that.
There have been times where that Montana year they didn't have this type of team. So I think just being able to look at this team unbiasedly and recognize that they can compete with anybody in the FCS, that's really what you want in the playoffs, as long as everyone else is represented to the most equal parts that you can give them with conference winners and resumes, that's fine. But at some point, we're going to have to kind of look at it and say, who's going to really be able to compete with this 4 seed? Who's going to be able to compete with the number 1 if we do let them in with 4 losses? I wouldn't hate that, but also I got to see how they play against UC Davis. They can't lose 40-7. They can't lose 40-7 to Montana State. Then we're just sitting here like, wasted season. They didn't figure out the quarterback position. Defense wasn't as good as they should have been. And then we'll just get walked down by all the Montana State fans.
UC Davis has remaining Montana State next week, which is going to be a huge game. And Sac State has kind of lost its luster on being a competitive matchup. I think at the end of the day, no matter what, UC Davis has locked themselves into the playoff. They've only got 1 loss in the season. They don't have any FCS losses. They've got that win over Idaho that's building their case. They have confirmed themselves, and if they finish with a 3-loss season, they've got a strong case for why they belong still in it. But I would think that a 3-loss UC Davis team should not be seeded. I think as long as you split Montana and Montana State and you win one of those and lose the other, they could be one of those last remaining seeded teams.
Yeah, it is very possible. I'm not even worried about their seeding or if they host or anything like that. I just want to see them in the playoff. And this isn't favoritism. It's seeing the seeing who the teams that we've been putting at in the 20 to 25 positions so far this year, seeing that there is a gap between the 10 and the 11 to 19 and the 20 to 25s. And UC Davis is firmly cemented as a top 10 team talent-wise. Just stick it out with the resume. I think they can do it and actually be exciting and fun.
All right, FC estimates. Sean sucks. 5-10 last week. I went 8-10. No, 8-4-10. Sorry, numbers are off. On the season, 62 of 90. Sean is 55 of 90. Booty. Terrible.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's start off here. Western Carolina versus ETSU.
I am going ETSU.
Bad pick. I've been riding. Nope.
Huh?
Nope. Wait. Hold on.
What was that?
I have been going with Heath here. I have been going with Heath and relying on him, and supporting Heath has been helping me recently, so I'm going to take Western Carolina.
It's fine. It's going to be tough.
Monmouth versus UNH. For some reason, I thought you were going to read the next game about Monmouth versus UNH.
We're not in Ranger anymore. We're not flip-flopping. Yeah, we used to. I am going Monmouth in this one.
You wrote Monty, and I thought you wrote Mommy, which is weird if you did write that down. You could have wrote Mommy. You could have, because it's Monmouth. I don't know. UNH.
You were so sharp.
Central Arkansas
UC
versus
Davis.
Eastern Kentucky. Central Arkansas or Eastern Kentucky. Who do you got?
I think Central Arkansas burned the loss that they were trying to lose. I'm going with Central Arkansas on this one.
Clark all the way. SDSU versus North Dakota.
Dakota State, SDSU.
As Sean mentioned earlier, never mind. I'm not gonna Jackrabbits. I was gonna make a jacking it joke. And I'm not gonna do it.
Go. I'm sure no one on that campus has ever made that joke.
Lamar versus Incarnate Word.
Incarnate Word.
Yui is my pick.
Oh,
there,
no
Idaho.
Lamar, big Lamar truther.
No,
You're not going with
no. I don't even really know what their mascot is. It's like a lazy version of the Incarnate Word mascot.
You should be betting Incarnate Word or picking Incarnate Word strictly for the touchdown celebration last week alone. It's the most creative and genuinely the hardest I've ever laughed at a touchdown celebration in my life. Funniest moment of the college football season, and it's not even close.
Lamar just looks like a creative team. Like it looks like the most generic football team.
Yeah.
Bad.
Okay,
all right. Which one were we picking? Idaho State versus Weber State.
No, Idaho State. I'm going Idaho State.
I'm going to take Weber. I don't trust Idaho State for whatever reason. UC Davis versus Montana.
I am going UC Davis.
Get them, everybody. Montana
there's
fans.
no need
Montana
to get
fans.
me.
Don't let him get off the airplane. Don't let him get off the airplane. He's got something in his bag. He's got something in his bag. He's got it. Never mind.
ID, please.
I have Montana.
boss.
Everybody.
This is the one we heard about. Yeah.
He is picking against you. He hates you. We will be there. I will send you our room number if you would like to take it up with Sean.
You're gonna make me. You know what?
I was going
to start being mean, and I'm not going to be mean because I don't want to get my jaw broke.
Him.
What do you mean? There's no reason.
There's no reason.
Keep being scared of the Mountain Men.
Tennessee Tech versus Samford.
Tennessee Tech.
Tennessee Tech sucks. Give me Samford.
Having a decent season.
No, they don't. Robert Morris Robert Morris versus Duquesne.
Oh, Duquesne.
Duquesne is my pick. North Alabama versus Southern Utah. See, this is where I win.
I want to take Southern Utah, but if I need to get back, it's by taking Alabama.
But that's not how you win this.
No, that is how I win.
Idiot. Give me
not many weeks left.
Give me shoot. That's my pick. At Joe DeLeone at Sanderson Radio. 201-834-4308. Call into the hack bag. We're live on Thursday night. I need to put myself down to bed. It's been a long day. We'll talk to you later.